Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and in this video we are going to be talking about 10 fish that are almost guaranteed to lose you money if you try to breed them and sell them. Hope you enjoy the video and I appreciate you being here. So I want to be clear before we even start, all the fish that we're about to talk about on this list I really like. Many of them I have bred before and some of them I still have in the fish room. But the focus here today is whether or not you're going to make money breeding these fish, not whether or not you enjoy them. I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. What fish have you bred that you just simply could not get rid of? All right, so fish number one. This is one that it's just really hard to get rid of these, whether you're trying to sell them online, bringing them to a fish store. This is a fish that unfortunately gets almost no money at the swaps and auctions, and that is the common convict cichlid. Now the convict is a really cool looking fish, and I've had them before, and when they become adults they are amazing looking fish. The problem is they breed so easily and have so many fry that there just isn't a market for these fish. You also have to consider the fact that they are cichlids, and so because they are somewhat aggressive, you are limiting the number of customers that can actually properly house these fish. So if you are trying to breed for profit, the convict cichlid is probably not one that I would attempt to breed. What that means for the convicts, and really all the fish that we're going to be talking about, is if you don't want them to breed, maybe you only have one of them in your tank. The next one that will probably lose you a little bit of money is the Jack Dempsey. Again, we're talking about a South American cichlid that can get somewhat aggressive. It's absolutely fantastic looking when it gets older. The problem is, again, with the large spawns and the fact that you're dealing with aggression, and it is a relatively common fish, it can be very hard to move these fish at swaps, at auctions. I've seen bags of convicts and Jack Dempseys go for as little as $1 for a bag of 10. I've seen people bring these fish after they've bred them to club meetings and they can't even give them away. I've seen these fish go at auctions for basically, hey, we've got these fish at the end, does anybody want them? So that can certainly be something to consider. Again, really cool fish, might not be something you want to set up as a breeding project. The next one is the Red Devil or the Midas cichlid. They are very similar in the way they look. They're not the same fish, but they are similar. But in either case, you are getting a fish that is very aggressive and it's going to have huge spawns. When we bred our Midas cichlids, we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fry in a 75-gallon. And it's really hard to find a market for 600, 700, 800 fish that are as aggressive and get as large as a Red Devil or a Midas cichlid can get. Next one are Oscars, for the same reasons we've already talked about. Oscars are fantastic fish with amazing personality, and we have an Oscar in our fish room and we had more of them in the past, but the last thing I would ever want is to see a giant spawn of thousands of little baby Oscars for the same reasons we've already talked about. So if you're going to keep Oscars, it might be best to make sure you don't have a pair in your fish tank so that you're not trying to figure out how you're going to deal with hundreds, if not thousands, of offspring. And the last one from the Central and South American side are the Dovii. These are awesome fish, and a lot of people love these fish because they get so huge and so majestic. But just like all the other fish that we've talked about so far, the spawns are huge, lots and lots of aggression, and you're going to need a large tank, and that's going to severely limit the number of people that are available to buy those fish. In all cases so far, what we're talking about are aggressive fish that can get somewhat large, that have a limited selling potential. Now, some of these other fish, they're a little bit smaller, maybe not as aggressive, but they're really common. So one, it's a fish that I really like, and I actually do breed in our fish room, but it's not for profit, and that is the Brichardi. The Brichardi is a great fish. The problem is they tend to have a lot of offspring and breed very, very readily. At least in our market, you're not going to get a lot. Usually for a bag of 10 decent-sized Brichardi, maybe you're looking at a few dollars. In other markets, it might be more, and so that's one fish where you're going to want to check to see what are they going for in your market. But even pet stores, they don't take in a lot of them. They're not going to give you top dollar for them. Online, you're probably not going to be able to sell them a whole lot because they are so readily available. So the Brichardi, while they are super awesome looking fish, they might be a little bit tough to move. Now in our Breeding for Profit series, and by the way, if you want to see fish that will make you some money, I will put that playlist down in the description below. In the Breeding for Profit series, throughout that series, we mentioned some Mbuna cichlids that are from Lake Malawi that might bring in a little bit of money breeding for profit. But there are some that usually don't bring in a lot of money. One would be the Aratus cichlid, Bumblebee cichlids, and the Kenii. What we're looking at here are Mbuna cichlids that are on the more aggressive side, that even in those Mbuna community tanks might cause some issues. And again, with those types of fish, you are very limited to just customers who have those setups. And so it might not be a great idea for breeding for profit. Great fish to have in a tank, although the Aratus are extremely aggressive and we stay away from them, but it's not going to bring you a lot of money. The next one to consider are just common goldfish. A lot of people will get the feeder goldfish and grow them up, and they do look actually very nice. In fact, we had a fish tank that had some common feeder goldfish that turned into these beautiful comet goldfish. But once you try to breed them, we have to think about the market. And the market is that most of these are used for feeder fish, and even if you buy them as feeder fish, you're only paying 25 to 50 cents a piece. And so if you're trying to sell them, they're worth virtually nothing. And so if you're going to breed goldfish, especially the common goldfish, make sure it's just something you want to do for fun and not something where you're trying to sell these fish, because you're going to have a very difficult time doing that for anything other than selling them as feeders. Now, I'm not talking about fancy goldfish. That's a completely different story, and quite frankly, not something that I have a good handle on when it comes to the market. But when it comes to common goldfish, you're probably not going to make any money breeding those. The last thing I want to talk about isn't necessarily a fish, it's shrimp. Now, Neocaridina shrimp, you can absolutely make money breeding them. Where we have to be careful is the types of shrimp that we breed. What I'm really specifically talking about here is if you just have some kind of brown, plain Neocaridina shrimp that aren't the pretty red colors or blues or oranges like we have in our fish room. If you're just breeding mixed Caridina shrimp and they don't have a lot of color, they are virtually impossible to get rid of. The nice thing is with the shrimp, they stay small, so they're not going to necessarily completely overrun a tank, especially if you have them in a community tank. But I just wouldn't set up a breeding project trying to breed mixed Neocaridina shrimp unless you are trying to make sure that you isolate really nice colors and line breed those. All right, if you do want some information on fish that can make you some money, check out these videos in the upper right hand and lower right hand corner. Would love to hear from you once again in the comments section below. What fish have you bred that you just simply couldn't get rid of? Fish stores wouldn't take them. People didn't want them. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you in the next one.